Our next guest is a soulful East African singer and songwriter whose voice Vogue magazine calls superb.
Wow, that's an understatement. She's collaborated with everyone from Jennifer Hudson and John Legend to Common and Paul Simon. And she just released a new CD called The Lagos Music Project, the Lagos Music Salon. Get that one right. Somi, welcome to the show. I should know, I've been listening to it all day.
Me too. Oh my God, it's the perfect album. I love it. So soulful and beautiful. Thanks for that.
So
it's a blessing. Like,
thank you.
Every track. Love it, love it, love it.
And talk to us about your process, because you actually moved to Lagos for 18 months to prepare for this song, to get some inspiration behind the music you put in it. Why was it important for you to go there? Because I know you're not from Nigeria originally.
Right. I'm originally from East Africa, Uganda and Rwanda, half and half. Grew up in Illinois. Live here in New York City in Harlem. I decided to go to Lagos mostly because I found that I really was interested in moving back to the continent and spending time there to see how it might influence my work, musically, lyrically, just the inspiration in my creative process as an African artist. And Lagos felt very much like an African version of New York City. So I just wanted to go and plug into that whole art scene and energy of that city. So
wow. So tell us a little bit more about this creative process, though.
Sure.
What did you do? Like, did you go into the markets and absorb the sounds, the culture? How do you absorb what you see around you and channel that into your music?
Well, you know, I think initially when I went there, it was really just about getting outside of the city and being on the continent and just seeing how I felt and if I felt inspired to say or do or create anything. So I didn't really go there with an agenda, but eventually the one thing I did do in the very beginning of my trip was sort of carry around this little digital voice recorder. I just decided to create some sort of archive and always write whatever it was that I felt inspired to write. You know, so I was just like, at the very least, I'll create a sonic and a written archive of my experiences and then maybe reflect. And so about 6 months later, I realized that this body of work was emerging. And that really the story wasn't even so much about my story, it was more about the city of Lagos and the people and the experiences there.
Maybe that recorder will end up in like the Grammy Museum one day. So you know, we'll have it with all those clips. That's incredible.
Speak it.
Yeah, if you speak it, it will come.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the story behind the title of the album, The Lagos Music Salon.
Sure. Well, so when I was in Lagos, one of the things that I noticed was that there weren't many spaces, weren't many cultural spaces to really have these really intimate conversations with audiences. You know, in New York City, we sort of take for granted all the jazz clubs, all the little spots, you know, that you can kind of pop in and hear really fantastic art, you know, happening and being made in music. And so I was like, it's either these really, in Lagos, there are either these really small kind of, you know, not necessarily places that people are going to really listen to an artist. They might just be background, or they're like these hyper-produced spaces. So I started doing these salon performances of this work that was in progress at the time. A friend of mine had an art gallery in Ikoyi in Lagos, a neighborhood in Lagos, and I decided to host the first salon there. And it was, at the time, I was calling it a workshop, like an atelier. And then eventually they became this sort of regular series where I was collaborating with Lagosian musicians and fellow artists, and it just became this sort of, again, this room, this conversation where you could really have that intimate exchange with the audience.
I wish I had been there. That sounds beautiful and fascinating. And I guess in saying, you know, these wonderful things about the space that you created, you know, how did that emerge into the music? What kind of sound did you end up creating, you know?
Well, I think that, again, this concept of this room, right? Firstly, I really wanted to make sure that the Nigerian audience kind of endorsed, you know, the music, and that was the other reason I really wanted to have that chance to have that exchange. And I think that I love the idea that all these different sort of voices and influences are sort of showing up in that room. So there are tons of influences, whether it's hip hop or jazz or soul or Afrobeat. I mean, there's not one particular sound. You know, just I think I just wanted to have a sense of the people and the rhythm and the heat, you know, the tropicality of
And I
place.
can speak for it. Like, having heard the album, it touched me in exactly the way I think that you would have hoped. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the songs that I liked was $2 Day. Tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind that one.
Sure. Well, in January of 2012, I was still in Lagos at the time, and there was a strike that happened there, a protest that the people took to the streets called Occupy Nigeria. I don't know if you remember hearing about that, but essentially the Nigerian government removed the fuel subsidy from the cost of gas, which basically meant like it's an oil-rich nation and that people should be able to have cheap gas. So like if they can't have great roads or if they can't have light all of the time, at the very least we should have cheap gas because we've got so much oil here. So the people really took to the streets, and folks were devastated. And I met a woman who worked in the home of a friend of mine, and she told me her story, and she makes about $2 a day, like many of the people in Nigeria. And so I wrote that song for her.
Wow. And so you spoke a little bit about your need to connect with the people of Lagos. How is your music, after all this time, now being received there?
Well, I definitely was able to sort of find an audience and definitely have a support, system or supportive kind of audience, and I guess I would say the market has really been great to me. I think I was fortunate in the way that I came before that trip to perform at a jazz festival. So I had already kind of accessed an audience, and there were people who were already sort of aware of what I do. So that was a very fortunate situation, and another reason that I moved there.
Wow. Now, you think you'll continue to go back to Nigeria and other parts of Africa
Absolutely.
to do concerts, do inspirational music? What?
Absolutely. I mean, I do continue to go back. I was in Lagos a couple of months ago. In the past year that I've been back in the city, I've been to Nigeria about 4 times, and I continue to go to different parts of the continent. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me the ideal would be to live in both places always. To have your place in New York, but always have a place in, I don't know if Lagos or Nairobi or Kigali. I don't know, but
wow.
Is your music being as well received here? And can people still relate to it and connect with it, although you did it based on
I find that,
there?
with this record, the initial response, it just came out this week, the initial response has been tremendous. I'm getting a lot of really great press. So I really feel fortunate in that way, and I feel that it's helping me to expand my audience, and I'm just hoping that it continues to do so.
That being said, you've gotten some amazing comparisons. You've been called like a modern Nina Simone, and you've been likened to people like Diana Reeves. But that being said, how do you feel about being compared to these musical icons, these wonderful women?
Well, how do I feel about it? I mean, obviously it's a huge honor. I'm always deeply flattered by that, because the singers that they're mentioning are people that I adore and really idolize in a huge way, and really have inspired me in a huge way, and I listen to a great deal of. So I'm very honored that those are the comparisons being made.
I'm sure, and humbled too.
Well, who were some of the other people that inspired you when you were a kid? Who did you listen to growing up?
Who did I listen to growing up? Well, my parents listened to a lot of. My mother listened to a lot of classical music. I will tell you, just like in full disclosure, I was obsessed with The Sound of Music, so I'd probably say
me too. We can go like hold hands and sing songs from the album. I love it.
Julie Andrews was like who I was obsessed with as a little girl.
Were you outside on the hills like, the hills are alive?
There are no hills in Illinois.
Just super flat, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
But otherwise, I listen to a lot of African music. Miriam Makeba, Dorothy, Masuka, like a lot of the old African voices, and a lot of classical Western music too, because my mother loved opera.
Wow.
Right.
But that being said, you spent time in Nigeria, but would you ever go to where your parents were born and spend time there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's something I do hope to do in terms of a creative project. I have spent a lot of time there as well. I think a lot of people are like, why didn't you go to Kigali or Kampala? Why didn't you, go to at least Nairobi in East Africa? And I think for me, I really wanted to go somewhere that I had the sort of freedom to have enough Africanisms to feel at home, but enough foreignness to keep my perspective and inspiration sort of fresh and unexpected.
Wow.
All right, well, I think we are ready to hear a little something from you.
Wonderful.
Okay, now we'll let you go ahead over there and get ready, and we'll introduce you.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
ladies and gentlemen, here to sing us to commercial break with her song Ginger Me Slowly from her new album, The Lagos Music Salon, is Somi. Take it away.
Ginger me with pillow talk and pretty things. Oh, ginger me by candlelight and long walks by the lagoon. Ginger me with intellect and wine. Ginger me, boy, with kindness and gold. Yes, oh, ginger me slowly. Yes, oh, ginger me slowly. Ginger me with poetry and roses in the afternoon. Ginger me with trips to Monaco and to the Nile. Ginger me with power and humility. Oh, ginger me, boy, Ginger me with your love. Ginger me slowly, yes, oh. Ginger me slowly. Take your time, hold me closer, show me your heart and I'll show you mine. Slow it down, hold me longer, I'll be your girl if we do it slowly. Ginger me with unexpected kisses and a dance. Ginger me with breakfast in bed for just us two. Ginger me with dreams of love and faithfulness. Ginger me, boy, with your heart. Ginger me slowly, yes, so. Ginger me slowly. Slow down, 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 down. Slow, slow, slow. Slow.